do you know about land claims?
There are 3 instances that I've been exposed to personally, right? The first example is when
This chat of working corporate
Yeah.
or running your own business, the trap of the credit card.
I'm sorry,
It
I
does.
can't relate. I've never had one. Even if I failed, I still wouldn't give up living on a farm. I had to pass a roadblock where the army would obviously check to see if you're wearing a mask, everyone's compliant. And
What's it like though? Because you're a young black farmer. Have you ever felt inferior? I'm not supposed to be here.
to be quite honest,
Yeah, give me all your attention. One time for the misfits. Through the doors open on the highway. I promise you don't want to miss this.
This oak is a cook sister.
This guy's a cook.
He's a cook sister.
He said
on
that
the list.
10
million
saying
rand to
that
start
you
a
need.
farm.
I said you
come
need
on.
10
Yeah.
million.
No, exactly.
10 million
All of a
is
sudden
comfy.
The math is not mathing. I'm like,
People were
okay.
rocking me on the comments,
Yeah.
bro. They were like, "Hey, Matt,
Can we just have a hypothetical conversation? Please do your own calculations.
I was just saying it would be comfy to have 10 million to start a farm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It would be so comfy.
Exactly.
The guys were saying. The guys were saying.
Better.
Is it fine? Can you see his face though?
Yeah.
All right, sure.
The guys were saying Andile now doesn't want people to start farms. It's
Yeah, they
just,
see
it's
you.
just scary.
He's
scary.
blocked. He doesn't want you.
Yeah.
You don't want him to enter.
Let
Yeah.
me tell you something. I predominantly, when I started the consulting aspect of my business, was because I've been fixing all of those problems that I was talking about the last time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you may look at it from a perspective of me actually trying to block people from coming into the industry.
Yeah.
Or maybe I could be using my experience to say I see a lot of people who have problems to be fixed.
Yes.
Bro,
That's the problem.
That's what I want to touch
Now
on.
that's the problem.
Because I feel like, when people say, "Oh, Josh, it's so nice to get into business," right? I'm like, guys, it's nice, but you don't see the other things, bro.
Exactly.
Exactly.
You only see the car, you see the holidays,
Yeah.
you see the clothes, you don't see the shits.
the late night, the
Exactly.
stress.
Look, you essentially start a business because you don't want to work a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And you end up working 24 hours.
Yeah.
I call it, I say to my cousin, we work 26 hours a day.
26 hours a day.
Yeah.
I mean, I just concluded my 8th week of December.
Yeah, you see now.
You
You get what I'm
I
saying?
survived.
Yeah.
This chat of working corporate
Yeah.
or running your own business. Let's open that debate. Because I feel like we all at that stage in our lives where we becoming of age, we 30.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What are we called? Gen Zs? Are we millennials?
Are we millennials?
What
We
are we?
millennials.
Okay, yeah.
But I feel like there's that constant debate, I've got friends who work corporate and they're like, they want to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And then I've got entrepreneur mates
Yeah.
who are like, I want to work corporate.
Exactly.
Yeah. There's people who like the structure
Yeah.
of working corporate.
Sure.
Like their structure. They know, okay, I'm getting paid X amount.
Sure.
No doubt on this day, full stop. That's great.
I'm secure.
I'm secure. This is how this business works. Everything is hundreds.
Yeah.
And then there's guys who are like, hey, there's a fire in me, bruh. That's
But-
I cannot be in this environment. I gotta try and hustle. And sometimes these entrepreneurs, obviously, well, I'm not one yet, but you have your highs and lows.
Surely.
But surely when it's your baby, a high is like a big
proper-
deal,
yeah.
bruh. You
But
know?
how many highs drive you more?
Before you answer that,
Before we got on set, that was our conversation, I'm in business, you in corporate.
Yeah.
You're in business, right? Being in business, you look at corporate and you're like, there's structure,
they have it easy.
they have it easy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
At the end of the month, if you earning 30,000, you're getting your 30.
Yeah.
Whereas here, when you want to get 30,000 or 20,000, direct input equals output.
That's it.
Yes.
If you don't do the hard yards, my man, your salary is changed this month.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pay as you go.
But then here's the challenge. When you are in corporate and you're earning your 30, it doesn't matter how much more input you put in, you're still going to get 30. So you can work your 40 hours and 50 hours, 60 hours, you're still going to put in you're still going to get your 30.
Yeah.
And that's where people are like, all right, now they ask for more pay or shit like that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you're still gonna get that amount. It doesn't matter how much more you work.
Yeah. So there it's input, output the same. Same.
Another thing is one of the highs you actually mentioned, or one of the highs that I've seen is in that exact example. For example, you say in corporate, you're walking away with your 30.
Yeah.
In business, sometimes you see 30 repeatedly daily for the next 14 days.
Yeah, you see.
And then some days you see absolutely nothing at all.
Yeah.
Right?
So what do you do with that 30 that you're getting?
But that's the thing, is you need to use the bulk of it to, again, ensure that there's going to be another 30 the following month.
It's for continuity.
Exactly.
You save that.
I'm sure in entrepreneurship, there's an element of serious discipline.
Of course.
Yeah.
Bro.
Like serious.
But I suppose both in corporate, because I mean, there are times when you're not doing well and you're sort of doing like a self-introspection as to whether or not you actually made the correct decision in wanting to go into entrepreneurship. And you look at all the pros and cons. Am I not doing well because I'm failing to remain disciplined or grounded? Am I not doing well because perhaps maybe this isn't actually for me, right? Did I choose not to be in corporate simply because I'm passionate about what I do? Or did I choose not to be in corporate because it's easier to live by my own rules, right? So do I not have the discipline to then be in corporate? You know what I'm saying? Because again, in corporate, there's structure. There's a hierarchy as to how information is passed down to the ground and where the work is done and how it translates back to the top, in the form of numbers or figures. So because of that structure, there's obviously going to be discipline because you're always answering to your supervisor, your manager, the CEO, the COO, the CFO. But in your personal business, it's really about how you plan that business, how you
the
plan.
buck stops with
the
you.
buck stops with you. It does.
Yeah.
So you've got to be able to plan everything and hope that you can execute that idea, and hope that you can also actually inspire everybody else who's responsible for ensuring that happens to go in that direction.
But here's the thing. Let me tell you. When I'm mentioning discipline, I'm mentioning how you spend your 30K. So for example, when you're in corporate, this is prime example, happens to most of us. You see that number and then you break it down in terms of what you can buy with it. Car, house, and stuff like that, right? You get it. You get your car, you get your house. Now you're like, all right, leftovers, this much. This much. Then you're like, oh, flip, okay, that's fine. Then you get a promotion, 40K, 30 to 40. You're not thinking, let me stay in this lifestyle. You're thinking, oh, cool, which car can I get now? How big can the house go? Now you're squeezing it even more. You're squeezing it even more until you squeeze it so much, you're like, okay, flip, this is, okay, I'm working too hard. Now I'm stressed. Now you're like, if I leave, what's going to happen to all this stuff? Now you're stressed out because you've squeezed everything.
My dad always tells a similar story to me, right? He says when you're earning X amount of money, you shop at a certain place, you eat at a certain place, you have a certain routine. Once that money gets bigger, you say, I'm no longer shopping at the local shop. I'm going to Woolies now, boys. I've made it. I'm going to Woolies. I'm doing my groceries at Woolies. I'm just using Woolies as the bar.
As an example.
No, it is the bar.
Compared to your local, like you'll go to a wholesaler, like a local wholesaler where you're looking for deals and you're shopping accordingly.
In bulk or
He says you'll change that. So now you've automatically increased your basket from being 2,000 to being 6,000.
Right.
Right? You're doing groceries on a bigger scale. You have more room for that disposable income. You're buying Ferreros. We're buying Cadbury now. Things have changed at this house, boy. We eat Lindt only. No more Kit Kat stories. The only red chocolate's Lindt, You know what I mean? So just to add to what you're adding, it's exactly that, bro.
And that's what happens.
The more the budget opens, the more stupid decisions I feel like you make.
That's the discipline I'm talking about.
Well, I mean, in this sense, you're looking at it from a perspective of business, and then before you look at it from a perspective of your personal life.
Correct.
I'll probably come back to the conversation of the argument I'm always having with a lot of people who are in business and business leaders. And the conversation is always, as the business owner, as the CEO or the director, do you pay yourself first or do you pay yourself last? Now, there's an element of, you see the 30K I was talking about that you probably see within that day is feeding into a bigger figure at the end of a line that you're using, probably if you're guided by your cash flows, for example. So the 30 for the day doesn't amount to the 350 that you see on that very line that speaks to the inputs that went into making sure that you can get something out of a product on that particular day. So that 30 needs to be allocated to something. right? So that you end up being able to essentially break even, and then from a particular point now try and get a profit, So that's the discipline. It's exactly that. What does the money do within the business to ensure that you stay above the line?
You know what's the most painful thing running your own business? Just to touch on your topic, is turnover means nothing. Because turnover looks beautiful. After expenses, boy.
It's about the bottom line.
We into the reds, boy. You know what I mean?
You turned over 2 million that year just to buy yourself breakfast.
Exactly.
Literally.
Exactly.
Just so you can afford breakfast.
That's what I feel like a lot of people don't see with business.
Yeah.
Is they see a business and they hear, oh, turnover 2 million, right? What's the cost though? And what are you taking at the end of this?
At the end of it,
Exactly.
Because
how
from
much
2 million,
of that
you
are
can
you banking?
take 10,000, bro. You never know
that's exactly
what
it.
the GP is
Exactly
there.
it.
Exactly. What are some of the mistakes you've made as an entrepreneur?
Ooh, plenty.
Yes, sir.
Okay, first of all, I would say one is the fact that I still consider myself a baby in business.
Okay.
The business probably was established around 2016, right? The business. It ran concurrently with my job as a farm manager. And then eventually I tried to just smoothly transition out of it into business full time. You either transition or get pushed out, but And the first thing is, because I'm so young in business, right? I consider or find myself still sort of celebrating the fact that we've made it over the 5-year mark, for example, and we still exist, right? But again, compared to a lot of the businesses that we work amongst, and also get products from and that kind of stuff, you realize that you are actually still like a baby in the business. So you can look at the opportunity of working with bigger and businesses that have been established for longer as an opportunity to be inspired and to actually grow and to get and learn some of the tricks of the trade. Or you can look at it as a threat, and actually feel like you're insignificant, And some of the things that I feel we can cloud our judgment when it comes to running a business is comparing yourself to a business that's established and is running for a third or fourth generation, whereas you're just a first generational business. We spoke about corporates. The corporates that we speak about that people work for, they must have started as an idea and a business at some point, or as a small business at some point, right? Before they grew into a conglomerate. It would have had a business owner and somebody to actually work, or business owner perhaps maybe even does the actual production themselves. Then they hire extra help, extra hands, so they can grow the business. And then they have staff and so on, right? Some of the mistakes that I think I would say I would have made, and a lot of people would make, is, for example, thinking that you can just start on a certain level. So you come in and you have employees. You come in and you don't touch anything, and you just sort of dictate and you control and you plan and coordinate, and that's about as far as it goes. Delegating.
That's the D word.
Delegate and leave.
The D
You know what I
word.
mean?
Yeah.
So people don't realize when you're in the own business, I'm the marketing manager. I'm the HR manager. I'm the accountant. I'm also the sweeper sometimes. I've got to pack shelves sometimes. I've got to pay salaries all the time. I've got to pay supplies all the time. Because people call and they're like, hi, can you put me through to the accounts department? I'm the accounts department, man. What about HR? I'm HR.
I'm going to deal with these problems.
What about the person who does your marketing? That's me.
Yeah.
People don't see that when they see an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
They don't see that you have to do everything. You've got to sweep, you've got to open the door, you've got to lock the door.
You've got to be present.
You've got to be present.
Yes.
I've learned being present is the most important thing in any business.
Really, eh?
Yeah.
When I'm not present,
Yeah.
I just know there's problems.
Sure.
There's always going to be
And my partner as well. If the both of us are not present, bro,
It's a shit
there's
show.
problems. There's always going to be problems
Yeah.
because things are conducted differently. You know the famous saying, when the cat's away, the mice come to play. That happens in
exactly it.
business.
Is that because obviously it's not their baby, it's your baby?
Not.
It's
It's not their burden.
The drive and the passion won't be the same.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
it's with you.
It's with you.
But
Yes.
have you ever felt like that fire? You know, you spoke about the fire. You ever feel like sometimes that fire's gone off? You've got to revive it.
Like it's died.
You feel like it died. Like about farming specifically.
Yeah.
Has there been moments where it's died and
No.
you've had to revive it? Or is it still there, bro? Is it there?
I think you find me at that very particular point in my life, actually, and I'm not to say that the fire has died, right? There's so much that you come to learn and appreciate about a passion that you have for something, you know what I mean? What actually keeps us going? What keeps me going? What makes me not decide that on the 27th of February, I'm no longer going back to work. You know what I mean? So it's exactly that. There are certain aspects of the lifestyle in entrepreneurship that just that you just can't get over. You can't give that up, And I don't think any amount of money will make you give that up. For
what is it?
For example, I always say, even if I failed, so let's put it this way: if I failed completely and dismally at whatever it is that I'm trying to build, and I really, really have to relieve everybody off of the excuses of not being able to get paid on time, and there's no production to supply or work with, you know what I mean? Then I would obviously have to look at a way of doing something to sustain my lifestyle, right? But if that something happens to be having to find a job somewhere and to use my skills in a job, whatever job that might be, I still wouldn't give up living on a farm. I would never go back to live in the city in a way.
Why? What makes it so beautiful though? That you want to stay there? Like for me, I'm a town guy. Like I like a young apartment in the center where it's happening,
Yeah. It's just it's different, There's something about the peaceful environment,
You don't hear sirens there.
You don't hear a taxi driving past your house.
Space. You sort of, the environment is exactly what you want it to be. You know what I mean? So your neighbors are so the environment itself is just there's a particular calm that comes with just the aspect of being on a farm. You would have had to spend enough time on a farm to realize that there's a clear significance of just like leaving the farm to go to the city, go to town. It's different. Very different.
That transition you spoke about, how long did that take from farm manager to doing your own thing, and start from your idea? So you had the idea, flip. Maybe I want to start my own thing.
I think my idea came a lot from what I was exposed to more than anything. So my idea was built on, you grow crops and you supply them to your local store, basically. And then the idea grows in terms of the volumes that you're supplying, the number of stores you're supplying, And then the idea also in your mind, it also involves having your company branded on a truck, at some point.
Oh, really?
And having multiple trucks.
So that's you like dreaming that.
That's what you dream.
Yeah,
those are the kind of things that you see and that you hope for one day, So you realize that, okay, you've got to start your life from somewhere and you obviously get a job, especially if you have a qualification, right? You're going to try and get a job as a farm manager, an assistant farm manager, maybe even as an intern, actually, And I remember I interned for a corporate, an organized agricultural company. And basically people supply this company sugarcane and they produce sugar, right? But my role there at that time was purely just based on research more than anything, because the company itself would look at the various cultivars in sugarcane that were performing better in certain areas, so that when people plant cane, they get the best possible return on investment when they harvest. You know what I mean? So that was obviously dependent on the variety of sugarcane that you've actually planted, which affects or will give the results, like the amount of sugar you get. So we did a lot of research in terms of those particular cultivars, constantly breeding. They were constantly breeding and crossing and doing all sorts of cool, like biological stuff to ensure that, they come up with the best possible crop. And that's all we did. So their production, it wasn't about volumes or the amount of it, was just about making sure that we have the accurate results that are going to be used for commercial guys. Then once the cultivar is available, the guys are going to plant it and make money off of that, So that was about as far as my scope was during my first job. And then I went on to being an assistant farm manager on a small farm in Richmond. There, it was a family-owned business, and that family probably had the exact same vision that I had for themselves.
Really?
Just plant crops and scale up and supply retail stores at wholesale, maybe at retail. So And that's what they did predominantly. And I learned a lot in that particular environment. You know, it further gave me a clearer picture of the dream or the vision that I would have had, you know. Then on my next job, I was then just a farm manager, a senior farm manager, you know. And I got to create that vision using somebody else's money and, you know, grow their investment.
Their portfolio.
Yeah, exactly, basically, you know. And you do it well. You there's something that we call ownership mentality. You know, when you're given the reins to do,
you treat it like it's your own.
and you treat it like it's your own.
It's your dad's company.
But I must say that was also very important for me because that's exactly how I honed the passion. You know, if I do well for this particular business, it actually has a direct reflection on me because everybody just says, well, that's the man who did the job.
Yes.
So pushed it actually further than what I had imagined it could be, you know.
Nice.
And then, you know, again, you know, entrepreneurship, business always has its ups and downs. And when that particular project hit a low moment, then I was obviously forced to find something, you know.
What? So you took them up and then it's down. They were like, all right, bro, listen.
And so many, you know,
your time's up.
so for example, you know, what happens is, you know, when a particular business crashes, there's always elements that are factor into, you know, and those could range from economic,
not in your control,
environmental, and then of course political.
Sometimes the monster you build is the monster that kills you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Often when you work at a company or a startup company and you build this portfolio, right? Whether it be even a client of yours, you build it big enough, they become the dictator for you. You know, they make sure you stay in a certain place and a threshold. And the moment you become disposable, you're out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Exactly what you're saying. Like you stood there, you did the hard yards. When they were like, cool, you've done enough. We've learned what you do. Have a good day.
Yeah.
So then were you stuck now? Did you have to now make a plan?
Well, that's the thing is, but like I say, it's better off if the issues are environmental because that's just basically on your portfolio. Say, okay, look, it was going well. Issues are out of our control.
Yeah.
You know? If it was economic, again, you know, economically wise, everything just crashed and nobody is succeeding in the industry. We've seen that happening in the sugarcane industry. It got pretty tough. There were a lot of economic issues involved.
What did they do there again?
Mechanical issues.
Tax. What was it?
Sugar was being taxed.
No.
No.
It was,
What did they do?
It was
Differently.
a management issue in terms of embezzlement of funds.
Okay.
And then farmers weren't getting paid, and then produce wasn't going through. And
then that's the big picture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly how that's the company I interned for.
Oh,
initially,
snap,
funny
yeah.
enough. But it was many years
it's
ago.
a
Then
circle back.
5 years later, circle right back.
Yeah.
But also, in this particular business, it wasn't actually an economic problem as such per se at the time, but it was more of a political issue. And unfortunately,
how does that work?
As a political issue, what happens is you are not only does it affect the business, right? But it also affects the individuals in the business. So it's like now, so the entire time you're being praised for the man running the show.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's, but then the man running the show that you're running, you know, it becomes, it taints it, you know, they're two completely separate issues, I must say, you know, from a political perspective and from business perspective, but somehow one is just linked to the other, you know?
Yeah.
So leaving from that point, you can't just walk out there with the CV and be like, oh no, the reason why I left my last job is not because I was unhappy, it's because the business, you know, was dissolved. And the question is why, and then it just raises a lot of questions.
Yeah,
because you look like
now
exactly. So you now you know that that's not a step you can take. You can't take the skills you left with that you're being praised for to the next level because maybe no one really wants to sort of rub shoulders with you at the time. So that's essentially how I was pushed into the entrepreneurship space.
You were forced, bro.
Basically, you're just pushed into
propelled
into
you're not
entrepreneurship.
but I mean, it's something you've always wanted to do anyway.
But
it's because you were pushed.
Yeah.
The most important thing there is that you were pushed out of your comfort zone.
Exactly.
Forced out your comfort zone.
And the thing is, I had a plan. You know, I had a 10-year plan. I have 10 years of wanting to grow this to reach. In fact, I think we'd actually reached a ceiling, but there's no such thing as reaching a ceiling really in food production because, you know, you can just, I believe that there's never enough to go around really. So what you do is you want to see how well, you can consistently ensure that you're within these cycles as you've set them up. You know what I mean? You know, so it's a balancing act of just ensuring that you scale up and you remain consistent. You know what I mean? So if I can supply one a horse and trailer a week, can I make that 2? Can I make that 3, 4, 5? You know, so I think it's at that point, that test point that I never really got around to, and then you sort of just thrown into a space of having to establish yourself. You know?
Every big businessman always has a similar thing. They always say they were pushed into the deep end and they had to learn how to swim.
But now, if I want to be a businessman, do I sit and wait now for something to push me? Or do I just go?
No, but go for it. The thing is, like I say, I had a plan. So I unfortunately, I can't say much about how the entrepreneurship journey would have turned out for me had I had the opportunity to test my theory for the remainder of the 5 years, and then take that concept and then try and establish. I mean, of course, establish something and struggle, but struggle comfortably knowing that, you know, my plan was to transition into business. You know, being pushed out is a different story because you have to sort of get up on the Monday and be like, okay, so how do I get from?
Yeah, jeez.
You've never had to think that far there.
Yeah.
You know, you've always known you want one, but you just don't know how.
The nice thing about that though is that you were in the right environment to push that boundary. When I say that, I mean you didn't have a spouse to support, you didn't have a kid to support
that he knows.
You didn't have that you know of.
Keep going.
You didn't have a bond to cover, right? And you'd maybe you had a vehicle installment that you had to pay. But that's not as stressful as those things. And that's why I feel like it's nice to be propelled when you're young.
True.
Because you don't have the responsibilities that you get when you become old.
Yeah.
But the problem when you're old is that
regrets. You regret.
I feel like it's nice to regret early.
Yeah.
It's nice to regret early and then you're like, okay, I've got to fix things, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas getting stuck in that trap, and I'm not saying corporate's a trap, but I'm saying being in corporate till you're 40, and then you're like, maybe I want to start a business.
Yeah. It's too late.
But the room for risk is so small.
It's the risk.
You've got to miserable. Success is your only option here. There's no room to risk too much. Whereas when you're young and you've got nothing to lose, you can risk. And then you can always go back to corporate if you have to.
And now that you bring it up, I actually realize that there's also even that blessing in disguise that I didn't think about at the time.
Exactly.
Actually, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. That's always my chance.
Because that would have stressed you out, man.
Bro, because imagine being 40 now and Andile has worked all his life at a corporate, right? And then he says, I kind of want to try this farming thing. It's a passion of mine. You've got 2 kids at Hilton College. Right? You know what I mean?
You're going to have to be standing in Point Road, boy.
You leave you leave this job, your room for risk is this big.
It's minimal.
Minimal. You've got no room to lose a load. You've got no room for a heavy storm to hit your crop.
Unless you were smart enough to have some emergency funds in reserve.
Yeah, but I mean, with the business, you run through that thing so quickly.
And then what about your credit score now when you want to get funding after? Because I don't know about this. When you want to work corporate,
I always ask this question. You know, as a young businessman, do you really ever have a credit score? To be quite honest, you know,
that's what
because the sacrifice always comes from you at some point. You know? When you feel you haven't performed well or haven't performed as you should, right? It's your responsibility to make sure that you find the funds to make sure that you balance everything out for that particular month. And sometimes that means, like, if you had a consistent way of being able to pay yourself some remuneration every single month, you might actually skip that particular month and that might reflect the following month if it reflects at all. But the sacrifice will always come from you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yes, of course, you can be disciplined and say you're going to be disciplined enough to make it work. But you know, sometimes it doesn't necessarily work that way, especially when you start out. You know what I mean? So it takes a long time, a very long time. And again, it's become a mindset adjustment for me. Plenty of times within this business, the journey of business. You know, I always say there are so many things. You start to tell yourself, you know, maybe I can't actually have this. Not this one's not going to be for me. You know, I'd be lucky if I drive a Merc one day. If it
I was
happens.
just about to say the G63,
Yeah,
leave
yeah,
it,
oh,
leave it
please,
behind.
No,
Yeah.
I don't
Leave
even, I don't
it
even,
behind.
That's just the laptop wallpaper, boy.
Yes.
the only place I'll ever see a G63, honestly, is on it's an auto trader.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just, you know.
And
we're
I
all looking at
screenshot.
those, eh?
Hey, you're also looking. Yeah, we also.
For farming. It's good for off-road.
to get away.
Yeah, it's good
Three
for off-road.
tons.
I mean, it can pull loads, you know what I mean? If it has to, it's not a problem.
Imagine flip.
But there's as a guy, you know, and I feel like being a guy, I'm gonna take this away from I'm a little bit, and I'm saying being a guy where all three of us are in a similar situation, we're the first generation. Many of us, I'd say like 90% of Black, Indian, and color guys are the first generation to have the ability to have options.
Yeah.
When I say that, we have the ability to have become professionals, like becoming doctors and teachers and lawyers and accountants. And we also have the opportunity to be entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah.
Now. But back then, the only opportunity to succeed to a level was to be an entrepreneur. So they
For
were
who? For
forced-
brown guys, not for browns.
Black guys, Indian guys, color guys. Back then.
The only option to succeed was to be an entrepreneur
become
or have a
rich.
job.
But you're not going to become rich to drive the G63.
No, you're not.
That's
No,
what
you're
I'm
not.
saying. So
Yes.
back then, the only option to become incredibly successful, you were propelled and forced to become an entrepreneur, right? But now you can still become fairly wealthy if you become a heart surgeon or a chemical engineer, you know what I mean? Or a construction mogul, you know what I mean? So the room for success post 1994 has increased significantly. It's given you a lot of options, you know? And I see it often because think about it when I say this. How many black guys, color guys, and Indian guys from the generation before, like our pops and them, have become incredibly wealthy, right? Because they were forced to take that. It wasn't even a leap of faith. It was win or lose.
Yeah.
You had no option. Otherwise you were going to just work a normal mundane job, 9 to 5 at a factory or whatever the case is, you know? And I feel like we sometimes are spoiled for options,
Right.
you know, where we don't know. And we always have this conversation where you're like, why do you want to do that? Why do you want to study that? You know, it's because we given so many options now.
Yeah.
It's like, Andile, okay, quit your job and just go study for 2 years and then you're a lawyer. Do you get what I'm saying? We're given the opportunity, and I feel like sometimes it's not nice
Yeah.
because there's too many options.
Well, look, I think there's also a lot of skills that need to coincide with that kind of mentality.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's also another problem. Especially, I always say that some of the trends I would have noticed when it comes to exactly that, when you have African or black people who took the risk of establishing businesses back then, I think they fought so hard to create a life for their families that they spent a good part of their time at work or at this business. They're not being able to transfer the discipline and the skills that are required to actually ensure a good succession plan. Because a lot of people of my age group who come from backgrounds like that don't carry the same kind of discipline. You know what I mean? So they don't have the same mentality. You know, in fact, again, a lot of money is spent making decisions over what it is that you actually want to do with your life. A lot of time is spent just sort of floating, but not actually sitting down and fully being immersed in choosing a career path or choosing a life path that is, you know, worth something, you know, especially up until this day and age. And that's obviously, it's a problem, because what happens is you end up like having a lot of spoiled, entitled individuals who then struggle to solidify a lifestyle because of that, you know, because of not getting the backgrounding of skills and all the other softer, I'd say soft skills, I suppose, you know, just sort of looking into what are your kids actually good at? You know, what can we encourage them to do better? What can we also spend money on that would actually encourage them to hone the skills that they are passionate about. It's just there's that balance that I've noticed that also does come at a cost of being fully immersed in entrepreneurship, especially back then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's better now. We have a better understanding of the support that we have available to us. For example, things like sitting down with a financial advisor before you've even started anything, and having an advisor at the bank, and having business
I still
coaching.
haven't seen my guy since I started, wherever you are, bro. Yes.
This guy.
As a review, maybe once every 2 years.
Just say happy
wherever you
message,
are,
bro.
dog. Jeez, like
My lady,
Pretend to care.
my lady calls to say happy birthday, happy
wow.
New Year. Maybe I'm a good client. I don't know.
bro, I've never lapsed.
Maybe I'm doing this entrepreneurship thing.
I've never lapsed. I've never lapsed. It's
Is
just,
it?
yo,
Numbers never lie,
there's
bro.
a big meeting when you're now a young professional. Big
Yeah,
meeting.
big.
You feel important, and then
They give you the
you
black
sign
card.
all
They
you
give you the
sign
black card.
all the stuff.
Yeah.
And then the guy's like, lekker, well done, dread disease, disability, boom, boom, gone.
I won't see you again.
Yeah, and then you get an email, oh, there's an increase in your premiums.
Yeah.
Lekker.
It's been a while.
I don't know who to call if I break my leg
You
tomorrow.
probably, maybe you
I
at
don't
gym
know.
sometimes on the treadmill and he's next to you. You don't even know.
Exactly.
Does he still
Well,
work
you
there?
don't
Does he
know
still
him.
work there?
You need to
Does he still-
find me, boy. You need to find me.
Things are getting serious now. Bro.
Serious.
Call this guy. You don't want to miss out. bro.
Yes.
You know what? I want to touch. While we talking about cards and stuff,
Yeah.
the trap of the credit card.
Oof.
You know,
I've been there.
It,
I won't
it
even
looks
lie.
so nice, bro. Because
I've
now
been
you
there.
know you've got a limit of whatever. Let's
Bro.
say 15,000. You've got a limit of 15.
The worst is when they phone you
say?
to say, hey, we want to increase your limit.
Bro, why are you calling me to ask me that? Because they do that to me as well. I'm like,
I was literally thinking about it the other day when I was paying it off. I was like, these mothers, they called me to increase my limit, and now I succumb
I'm
to this.
struggling with the small one.
I said, when I'm finished paying this credit card off, I'm gonna phone them and I'm gonna say, put it back to like R5. I don't want to hear you.
Bro, like the credit card trap is amazing because I remember when I first became like a graduate, because I was working
Yeah.
corporate, right?
Yeah.
I was like,
Right,
yo,
right.
Mr. Dukwa. No, I'm Mr. Dukwa. I'm not Josh from
no,
Boston.
please, no.
Yeah.
I'm Mr. Dukwa. Mr. Dukwa, you qualify as a young professional. And
that
now,
word.
that
Now you're like,
means you get a credit card. I'm like, what?
And it's black.
It's a black credit card, bro.
Yes.
You know the black card chats is the big one. You know when you're at the club, you play with a black card and taps.
You're the
you.
only person paying.
You know what I mean?
Hey, now they're rolling. Hey, now Capitex got them,
You
man.
even
Hey,
tapping, boy.
yes,
I'm tapping.
We're losing
Wherever
value.
I'm going, I'm just
Hey,
tap.
we're losing
okay,
value.
it's okay,
there
I've got
now.
this.
now they say to me, listen, you qualify for a credit card to this value. I'm like, okay, that means I'm making
That's
it,
big
bro.
money.
You know what I mean?
That's big money, boy.
Sometimes you think when I started, I thought, yo, this is my money. Like I was like, yo,
Yeah,
15,
yeah,
20, that's my money to play with every month. Then you just use it a bit, use it a bit, use it a bit, use it a bit.
And you're like, no, I'll pay it off.
Then they hit you out.
I'll pay it off, man.
No, no,
Ah, it's fine.
$2,000 a month. I'm done.
2 grand, that's nothing.
4 months, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm fine. Then they hit you with a young call. Hello, Mr. Tukwa. Hi. So we've just seen recently we may have to maybe we'll set a debit for your
set.
payment, you know?
You're like, wait, what?
What's going on?
Wait,
What's
hang
going
on. Wait,
what do you
wait,
mean?
wait.
It's only like 6,000. I can sort this out like in 2 paychecks, you
Yeah.
know? But that trap is so easy to fall in,
Bro.
And you know what? You neglect it as well. Because
Yeah.
you're like,
It's
I won't
empty
pay
now.
it this month.
Yeah,
I'll just pay it next month. You need
Yeah.
to have so much discipline. Bro.
yeah.
And I'm sure
yeah.
it comes at interest. I'm sorry,
It
I
does.
can't relate. I've never had one.
Interest
You've never
is-
had one?
I've never had one.
Bro, bless you, hey. Bless
You're a smart man,
Yeah,
bro.
I've never
Bless
had
you,
one.
bless you. Interest is at like 19%.
That's why you still look 18, bro.
19%, bro.
That thing hits you quietly. It's a silent killer, that thing.
Yes.
And you just think, because I qualify for one now, I must use it.
But look, this is where they become useful, all right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, you know you're getting a bonus at the end of the year, let's just say.
Yeah.
But you need to book your flights now.
Yeah.
That's where they become useful. But bro, the discipline that you need to pay that off.
I always say, based on what I've learned from
Yeah.
Yeah.
just chats that I've had at the bank.
Yeah.
No, it's actually quite important, even from a safety perspective.
Yeah.
You're not always going to have
It
cash
is.
available, and
Exactly.
sometimes you just know that if there's any issues that need to be resolved, and they really are asking for a lot, you have the option of
Yeah.
using a credit card. You know what I mean? I think so. That's the purpose of having one,
But
right?
everything
Yeah,
feels
you just need a
cheaper
little bit
with
of
your credit
counseling,
card.
bro.
Everything feels cheaper with your credit card. When I
Yeah.
bought AirPods, bro, it felt too expensive for my debit card.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Just borrow the cash for the airport.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now you just can, with the credit card, you can just
And
swipe.
I can just pay them off
How much?
over.
5,000. Tap.
There
I'm
it is.
tapping.
There it
Give
is.
me those damn AirPods.
You
Oh,
can
with the debit card.
What you must do
Stuff,
is
bro.
you can get more points. Just by the way,
Yes, you
if
can.
you take your salary,
Yeah.
okay, and you don't spend it. Let's say you get your 30K. We've
Yeah.
been using 30K. Then during the month you use your credit card to buy all the stuff you
Yes.
need. Then at the end of the month,
You pay.
You take it back. That's good for
Have-
your
have
credit
you done
score.
that?
Yeah, I've done that before.
Is it?
But
You have
then
the
I'm
discipline.
always
You
in
have
a,
to-
no,
you
I'm in
have
a,
to have
a
the
deficit, obviously. I'm always in a deficit.
To some extent.
But it happens. It happens. But that's why
Owing
you get
10,000 on a credit card does not a lot.
nah, bro.
It's
Nah,
fine.
bro.
You're like, it's fine.
Whose money
Yeah.
is
I'll
this
pay
anyway?
them. It's your money. I'll pay it in 4
Yeah,
months.
bro. Listen, I was actually talking to a farmer the other day.
Oh, yeah, we're back at farming. Hey,
Yeah,
we're
sorry,
far away
sorry.
from
That-
farming.
that- that's what you
But a lot
do.
of people have this problem.
How much do you know? You're a young guy, but how much do you know about land claims?
We were having this debate even.
Yeah, but I was
Last
talking to a
episode.
farmer the other day, man. I mean, there was a guy who, in Zim, they had the farms there.
Yeah.
And then they got taken.
Yeah.
And then you got to move.
Yeah.
And then even in South Africa, there's some stories with
Yeah.
land claims and stuff
Quite a
like
lot
that.
of the
Yeah.
farms around in our areas are actually under land claim and have been claimed successfully.
So
Quite a lot of
what is that
significantly.
process? What do they do there?
So
Is it
the way
with
I-
compensation or without?
So well,
Oof.
depends. So
Is it Julius?
how I and how I,
no, he's taking Umhlanga, not the farms, bro.
how I understand it, based on what I've been exposed to, is okay. So there is an element of Africa being Africa, South Africa being South Africa. There's a high chance that the farms we occupy were once villages or once residences, right? And then they were occupied by particular clans, families, chiefdoms, and kingdoms, right? And then, don't ask me about the dates. I can't differentiate between what happened in 1652, whether that was Cape Town, and what happened in 1913, and whatever the case might be. But at some point, they were settlers, i.e., white farmers, whatever the case might be at the time,
Yani.
or just the four-trekkers who just sort of
That's
came in,
yeah, the four trackers.
and then sort of.
Because they
See where it gets a bit
migrated from...
controversial.
Okay.
They either took it or they bartered for it. I mean,
They sitting there like this, bro. They're waiting. What is real
we
to drop?
don't know
Yeah.
what happened.
Yeah.
Or whatever
Okay.
happened, right?
Yeah.
And
But there was-
the transfer of information would have changed significantly by
Yeah.
word of mouth and script, whatever the case might be. But anyway,
Yeah.
then what we know today as 1,000 hectares, 300 hectares, 250 there, 150 there, now belongs obviously predominantly to a so and so, whatever the case might be, So, but now as then life happened the way it happened, whether we went through the whole situation with apartheid and that kind of stuff, and then now we're back in a democracy, and we're now trying to correct what we are told or we know as injustices of the past, right? So a lot of people who are quite knowledgeable of their lineage, for example, will know exactly where they come from. If there's one thing I think Africans are good at, is we are going to tell stories. We are going to have poetry. We're going to recite even things like Isithakazelo, which are our clan names that sort of aren't just a tally of names, but it also sort of paints a story as to where you come from, right? So it almost gives you an idea of your heritage and where you come from, right? And then there are obviously graves, apparently, that you find on these particular farms that date as far back
Oh my
as
word.
when they were
I don't know
African
that.
people and chiefdoms in particular areas.
Yeah, because they used to, you can bury them in your backyard, man.
Yeah,
Because that was
in
a
village,
thing.
in the
I
village.
know
So
lots
exactly,
of
there's a
people-
village, you know what I
yeah,
mean? Yeah. So there's even evidence goes as far as that sometimes, and
Okay.
DNA testing and that kind of stuff. There's nothing that you can't test to prove, right?
Oh, hectic.
So people, have an idea or they're knowledgeable about where their Ngcobo clan comes from, them Kize clan comes from, them Tembu clan comes from,
Dukwas come from,
where the Dukwas come from.
we know where they
all the
come from.
Dukwas arrived on that.
Yeah, we know.
Whatever.
You guys
Christopher
say,
Columbus.
we know where
Your
you came
grandfather
from.
was
They tricked us nicely, bro.
we know.
They played with us.
Your
There, boy.
grandfather was on that.
Imagine the scenes though when that happened though.
They-
What were they telling you at the ships? Like you there, they're like, you looking there, you're like, hey, what's going on here? They're like, hey boss, come here, boss. There's a plan we can make here. Come see here. When you get there, boss, chica, this business, yours. You're like, I'm on my way.
That's a different
And I'm even
scam,
calling
bro.
my cousin. I'm like, hey, Raj, come check here, boss. Check here. Check this paper.
Hey, they say they got the Bitcoin there. They got Bitcoin down in
South Africa, but the corner. You know, my Africa, there, right here. Plus, you know, if you got a ship, it can move right there. You know?
So basically what
they
happens
played
is-
us, bro.
What happens is you find that people actually then like sort of come together and then they obviously lodge a land claim and then they give particular evidence. It's probably sort of tried or whatever the case might be, and then the government gets involved and they sort of then try to what would you call it? They sort of negotiate that
Repossess, no?
Yeah, well, in a way, but they negotiate that trade-off. You know,
Okay.
there were instances where I'm not sure which period it would have been, but the government tried to alleviate the issue by paying farmers to leave the land so that the occupants
Yes,
can get
I
back
remember
onto the
that
land,
those
right?
times too.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And then it got to the point where the government probably is like, no, we run out of funds, it's over. And the guy's like, but we want our land back. And it's like, okay, cool. What do you just get it? Just apply, just get our land back.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you're given a notice period, I'm sure, probably.
Yeah.
And you're told that, you know, this land belongs to, it's been proven, and you have to give it back, you know.
Sure.
Now, the biggest issue that you find is that we are now speaking to the descendants of the people who were there initially. So when they get back, they don't know what to do with the land. They don't know how to farm the land.
That's the issue.
They don't know if they want to farm the land.
Yeah.
They don't know how to demarcate who had how much, who had more, who had less, who had the north-facing slope, where the south-facing slope, right? And that obviously creates a lot of social problems. Furthermore, you find that a lot of the land then gets utilized for re-establishing those communities or those villages. Like probably as a new village or whatever the case.
But now
But
you no
we're
longer-
not farming
you're
it
not
now.
farming
No. We're actually turning prime farming land into a village, into a home.
You see, that's what I was saying to you in the last episode, bro.
What?
I was saying I'm 100% for giving land to people who are going to successfully turn it for economic purposes.
I remember that conversation.
Do you remember?
I remember that conversation.
And you were like, no, but what happens if we just want to build homes and come?
So that's
You
what
get what he's saying.
that's what I
what's
would
happening.
like him to
Now,
carry on
so
talking about.
look, there are three instances that I've been exposed to personally, right? The first example is when these communities are going to get their land back. They realize that the land has been utilized for economic purposes. And in some instances, especially on these citrus farms, you find that those companies have gone as far as solidifying proper export channels to actually earn foreign income on these farms. A lot of the people that work on the farm come from now what is neighboring villages around these areas, and their entire livelihoods come from the salaries or the wages they earn on this particular farm. They are smart enough to say, we are now hiring the farmer as a management company to continue running the farm, and we are happy getting our wages and then also getting our dividends as bonuses.
Okay, and it's going to be big money.
Look, that is going to be, there's going to be quite a, look, I think what the management company would say, especially since if you're the brains behind the operation, you're going to say, I probably want to hold on to 50%, and the community and the staff complement of about 100 are going to be the other 50%. So of course it's going to be divided up quite significantly, right?
So
I
the normal pickers will become company owners.
they're shareholders, yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
shareholders.
They're proper
yeah.
shareholders. In fact, they're the owners of the land.
Yeah.
And then they're
Yes.
shareholders
Okay.
with the company. You know what I mean? So
But it has to be a very synergized process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like white guy get off the farm. I feel like there's a lot that we need to still work together.
Exactly. And you want to be fair. Like, for example, we are always going to own the land. So it doesn't matter, even if there is just one farmer, but he's entitled to the 50% because to drive the ship, we're going to need his intellectual property.
Okay,
to
You have
stay.
to work together.
Yeah, so that's one.
Yeah.
What's this other one?
The second one is when you have prime land and people just build homes. So like you find and they've just you have like a 300 hectare farm, and then they get there and then they just divide up the land, and then people start building their homes.
That's where there's like a chief and stuff. And
Well,
then
yeah, there'll be a chief. There could be a
Yes,
chief, right?
yeah.
But then that in some instances is a chief, and then they preside. So maybe they were able to prove that their family was probably the oldest family to be on the land, and they also held quite a lot of stature in within this particular village. They will then obviously then have a chief, and then the chief will dictate as to how people live. But in some instances, you find that municipalities are involved because those particular farms are quite close to cities, and they are under municipal
Different zoning.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So in which case, then they would have to be
rented.
well, not rented per se, but there are amenities that have to come with them being in a municipality, like electricity, water, that they obviously have to pay for, though, right? That have to be established. Okay. You always find, unfortunately, that the planning, there's no town planning involved when it comes to that particular settlement. Someone will have a 1,200 square meter plot, someone might have a 800 square meter plot, and they might not be proper drainage or proper roads, but the sewerage system, Lord knows how that works. It's either everyone has a septic tank, or they try to establish something, and it sometimes doesn't work so well.
The Carte Blanche had it a couple of, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, whatever, where people were going to build houses in land where the chief owned it. And they would have to, and how they would pay for that would be a bottle of whiskey or whatever.
That's how it's done.
Yeah, and they're building an actual house.
Yeah.
Like now, because you're not paying rates and stuff like that, they build mansions, bro.
Yeah.
So if you go there by the Lion Park,
Area.
you'll see mansions.
Yes, I've
because
seen-
that's
oh, you're
chief
right.
owned, and you gotta ask
Even
and
if
stuff
you're
like
on
that.
Umbulu
Yeah,
Stretch,
exactly.
the back
Yes,
roads.
the
That's
Papa
another-
Umbulu stretch as well.
Yes,
Yeah. So what happens to that spot? Because you actually don't own it now. You've given a bottle of whiskey, a Hennessy,
It's mine.
for a 3-story house.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's and
Is that really what happens?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't. I've always.
I'm not
often
being
wondered what
sarcastic,
they
I'm
do,
just
like, they-
being-
there
I
are no
honestly
title-
don't know.
There are no title deeds for
Yes,
that
there's no
particular
title
plot, so
deeds.
you just
So they're still like bartering to that extent.
Yeah.
of course.
They come in, they respectfully, they ask, whatever, what do you need? You get a case.
So imagine if you take a Glenfiddich 16-year-old boy.
They'll be like,
I'm getting a city.
1,000 hectares.
Bro, you can get a
Really?
1,000 hectares for a bottle of Smirnoff if you wanted to. Just depends on where you are. and how much the chief drinks.
18 squared.
Yeah. So, and because they've got so much land. Yeah.
The chief owns the
Yes.
land.
Third instance.
Third instance is when the community claims the land. The land gets claimed, goes through, and then
And it gets fucked up.
basically they kill each other because nobody actually wants. They can't decide who's going to take control. There's no sense of leadership in that particular situation.
There's no ruler.
There's
Like, there's
ruler.
no chief.
Yeah.
So everyone's like, this is my portion, but I want the better portion, but I want the north facing, I want the south facing.
Oh, wow.
No, but I want the place with the minimal fencing. I want to be closer to the river. I want to be closer to the dam.
Yeah.
And then also the whole point is they want to try and establish a business, but you have like 47 beneficiaries.
Yo.
And that's not 47 people. That's 47 beneficiaries. That's 47 people with their families. So if I have 4 sons that are all entitled to building 4 houses plus my main house here,
Yo.
Wow.
I must be given just an extra couple of square meters
Yeah.
to make sure that works out.
But bro, people don't realize, and why I'm saying synergy is so important, because I've seen it. Without synergy, and I mean without the white guys and the black guys and the colored guys and Indian guys who are farmers working together in a peaceful situation where they've worked it out, the cost of food just says we up. Because if you're building properties on farmland that's right, to produce, there's no export, number one, and then the market's drained. When the market's drained, the price of products are just doing this. So as the end user, we're gonna feel the brunt of these things.
True, but if you the person who picks oranges and you know this land is rightfully yours, I don't even think you know really the impact that you're going to make if you claim this land and start
Yes.
building on it. I don't think they really know.
But that's what I'm saying. If there's synergy with the person who's picking,
Yes.
it's no longer I want your watch.
Yeah.
It's how can we use this watch together for our
Yes.
benefit?
With the first example I made, one of the biggest things they're struggling with is all the first generational synergies that would have been formed up until this day. there's a succession issue because
Yes.
everyone who is a partner or a shareholder from the community perspective, from the staff perspective, only knows to respect the people they initially got into the.
I see.
You see what I mean?
I see.
I also feel like it's also a bit of an issue when the management company, i.e. the white farmer at the time, also does not use opportunities that we have now to instill some kind of education within the younger generation of the community. So
On
that
how to run
they'll- Exactly. So that when they come up out of university, you can even study Stellenbosch if you like, and get a degree in agriculture and major in orchards or whatever is available. Okay. And then use that skill to, but even then these kind of synergies never last past their first generation, because the minute the younger generation who have been groomed, who are black, to
Entitled.
take over, they don't get the same respect anyway. It's highly
Okay.
unlikely. There's highly unlikely they will be trusted to be able to run and lead that role. It
Jeez.
becomes an issue of, as your elders, we still get to dictate. I mean, you're our child
Yeah.
type of situation.
Yeah.
So it makes it difficult for that to maintain its, and I mean, it's not like the farmer it's no longer a family business. You know what I mean?
What's it like though? Because you're a young black farmer, right? Have you ever felt inferior? Is a simple word that I could use because sometimes we go to places, right? Even when you play golf,
It's the
sometimes,
clubhouse.
You go
The
to
clubhouse
the clubhouse
effect at the
You
golf
go to the
course.
clubhouse and it's like,
Yeah. The guys are looking at you like, mm-mm.
what are you doing here? Have you ever felt that sort of a feeling of
To be quite
I'm not supposed to be here?
to be quite honest, if I look at it from a personal perspective,
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
It's actually
Because you've got I have you on social media. You've got a very diverse range of mates that
people
you work with.
exactly. And
You know?
and
Yeah.
Thankfully,
and to
though,
be quite honest,
synergy.
I don't know if it's maybe the approach that one may have when they decide to engage in spaces like that. But I've honestly received so much assistance and guidance more than anything.
I like to hear that.
Maybe-
It's
maybe-
refreshing.
But you know what it is? Maybe it's the community. Like, I don't know, like if I think if anybody showed up and said they also want to do what you do, the farmers, I don't think there's hate there.
No.
There's no beef.
No.
That's what
There's plenty of beef, but but you know what I mean? They're not beef. Yeah. It's all support because
Sure.
it somehow just seems like it's an ecosystem.
Yeah.
But the media, go onto Twitter, bro. They draw divides.
Yeah.
There's always division. And okay, from my career as well, I don't see it as much as it's spoken about.
Yeah.
And I think it's people who are speaking about it sometimes, maybe some of them know stuff, but a lot of them are just writing things for the sake of writing them. In my personal experience as well, because our sectors are pretty overlapping sometimes.
Yeah.
I've never felt that divide. I've always felt
Look, it's a personality thing. You know, you get quite snobby, snooty people who have made it,
general.
who've done well in life. You know what I mean?
Very well
They're not
said.
going to help anyone.
Very
Whether
well
you're
said.
white or black.
It's
doesn't
not
matter.
racial.
It's not a racial thing.
It's
It's
just
a personality thing. You know what I mean? So
I'm a cake. That's who I am. That's who I am.
that's how I've perceived it. You know?
Yeah.
Like if there are people who
Yeah.
feel that they're more well established and doing better than you,
Sure.
but their personality also feeds into that, then you are never going to get help either way. I mean, it doesn't matter if they were black,
Sure.
even, you know. But if you are approaching people because you're actually wanting to learn something, because you're actually wanting to, you're saying, look, you know, you can even make a joke out of it and be like, listen, I'm looking to be your biggest competitor one day. What am I not doing right? It's going to start off as a joke, but I mean, they'll probably share, a thing or two.
Because you've
about
built
how-
crazy good relationships, bro. Like some of your mates, I see like they in vast parts of Africa. Your mates who's into beef and cows. He's
Yeah.
the big guy. The big guy. I don't know what his name is. But I'm just
Oh,
saying,
yeah.
you've built
Yeah.
such good relationships, bro. Even those Muslim guys that you post with. Do you feel like having a personality like yours as a farmer has played a big role in your success thus far?
I feel like having a personality like mine as a person in general.
It's just that I'm a good oak, bro. I'm a good oak.
Yeah. Really, no,
Just
honestly,
be a good oak.
Like it's helped a
Yeah,
lot.
bro, just be a good
No,
oak.
Yeah, don't be a dick,
It's helped a lot, you know.
Yeah.
Be open to learning. You know,
Sure.
Be open to to learning, to listen to other people, listen to what they have to say. You know what I mean?
What's happening with the cows? I believe, or am I could be wrong. Cows are getting diseases.
But it happens.
All the time.
It happens.
Yeah,
all
but
the
it's
time.
not
a breakout of a
Has there been a
foot and
breakout?
mouth or swine flu or whatever the case might be.
Also, they
Okay.
need a chat to Spa
But I
about
think
the egg prices, bro.
Yeah, well, that's
that
sorted
thing's
out
Well, there was
now.
an issue with
That's bird flu.
Yeah, but now the price is normal, but I'm still seeing 150s and things like that.
Yo, okay.
It's not oil,
Jeez.
boys.
So everything's fine with our cattle out there. We good.
I assume that everything's under control for now.
He's speaking on behalf of the whole country
Yeah, I'm
now.
just shaking. I'm just shaking. Hey, bro, we in the Midlands. Hey, the beef is important, bro. Yeah, we good. We good.
On behalf of the MEC of KZN, I'd just like to say.
I just chatted to him before. we walked
Yeah,
in.
we're just checking. We
This
good.
is what he said I need to cover.
We good. We good. Yeah. Okay. So no
So
problems.
look, we'd know because there are restrictions that are put in place when we can't move animals, when we can't supply certain products. So for now, we haven't had any communication regarding that. We are just continuing with business as normal. So I could assume that everything is perfectly fine. There are areas that are flagged, certain areas, maybe in the northern of KwaZulu-Natal, that may have had outbreaks, but it's controlled fairly quickly. Fairly quickly and swiftly.
What is foot and mouth disease? What is
So
it?
basically, it's a disease that causes cattle to have sores on their feet, their hooves, and around their mouths. And obviously, when it affects their health, it affects their productivity because then they can't eat, they can't, then they die.
So then why don't we kill them there and chow them?
Kill them away.
As soon as we see, okay, foot and mouth,
Well,
young cow.
Look. Well,
Yeah.
well, that's the plan because if my information is correct based on what I've read, the disease doesn't actually affect humans through consumption.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, it's just a thing of if you look at it from a more economic perspective, you can't have like businesses being wiped out completely
Yes,
because cattle are
true.
dying.
True,
You know what I mean?
true.
So I would say that one form of controlling the disease is to obviously just get rid of the animals that are showing signs. But quarantining is just the starting point of everything.
I hate that word, bro. Yo, that word is trauma, bro. Quarantine.
Well, yeah, the farmers understood it.
Yeah, but now for us, bro,
Ish.
quarantine.
Tough, bro.
That was a terrible time, bro.
I never thought we'd
When
stop
you-
wearing masks.
We all thought it was just 21 days, eh?
Yeah. What was it like in the farms though that time, by the way? And we always revert back to this conversation.
Funny enough,
We living with trauma, bro. We living with trauma, bro. When he said that Q word, I was like, huh? What?
Yeah.
Are you positive?
I think I remember when they announced the lockdown. There's so much I want to say, but
Where were you?
I was at home. But,
Yeah.
but I mean, it was announced. But when it was announced, I already knew for other reasons.
Then
So
this is about to happen.
I knew a while before.
Yeah.
You
was
knew
gonna
it.
happen.
So if you got it, for 21 days.
So by the time when that committee sat and they decided that there were going to be permits issued, I probably had the permit 2 days before. And so I was on the road the very next day after
The announcement.
after the announcement. Yeah. And I remember being the only person on the N3 just driving off at home, branching off. I was stopped by the army. They asked me where I was going. They asked me to produce our documents.
Permits.
The funny thing is we had a permit for our farm work for our stuff. And it was a permit that we made for the driver. And then when you went to pick up the stuff and was driving towards the farm, he too had to pass a roadblock where the army would obviously check to see if you're wearing a mask, everyone's compliant. And if we have a permit and he had a permit, and they're like, no, we want a permit for each and every single last of the 70 people that are going to work. So we didn't look at it from this perspective. We just had a permit for the vehicle and not a permit for the individual. So they were sent back home. So there was 1 day of no productivity. And remember, like when you're dealing with crops, you're probably at a point where when you harvest, you need to harvest, you need to supply. You know what I mean?
ASAP.
You know what I mean? But we also a bit wary because we also weren't sure what was happening on the other side. Are there people to receive the stuff? Is everyone just at home? Are the warehouses open?
Sure.
But everyone was sort of on point when it comes to
food. Food was critical. Food
That
was
was the
critical.
only time where we were respected a bit, bro.
Bro,
Essential
Can
services.
you imagine getting like,
we were also
even when 10
essential.
people are allowed into chickens at a time, you're amongst the people who are able
That
to
was
just
terrible,
pick the key
hey?
Wow.
and
Do you remember when they were doing that?
Just grab whatever items you can grab by your hand or in a basket. That's all you're getting because you're not sure if you're going to get
Toilet
enough
paper
supplies.
was a crisis as well, eh? Do you remember that like stores didn't have toilet
Not
paper?
really, but
I
people
was
made it out to
good.
be because that's what people went and bought.
Yeah,
I was
overbought.
good. Hey, but the boys made money then, bro.
They did, eh?
Yes.
But also it was
Toilet
scary,
paper.
bro.
Toilet paper.
Do you remember when you would see your mates and you'd be like, hey, yo, I used to hug you, but
Let's
now
just
we gotta
bump-
do a
let's
young
bump elbows.
elbow thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the
kinda
time.
cool. That is.
It was nice.
It was kinda cool.
What I liked, there was one thing I liked about COVID was the respect of my personal space.
Okay.
As South Africans, we don't have respect for personal space, bro. You go to the shops, somebody's in your thoughts. That's how close they are, bro. In the line, bro. You can't even, once you're in a line in South Africa, you must know it's a crowded environment. When COVID existed, there was at least a meter, bro.
Yeah.
You know, and people respect, like, hey, 1.5 meters, bro.
Yeah.
Distance. Now,
Sticker.
people in South Africa, we too in your face, bro.
it?
You
Yeah.
can hear what I'm thinking. That's how close you are.
Go back
Yeah.
to Dubai, bro.
Bloody hell, bro.
Just
Bloody
go back
hell.
to Dubai.
Future of farming, what's it looking like? What's your plans now?
Rights and
How's
grapes.
things have been?
rights and grapes.
I feel like
What are you up to?
My disclaimer before I say anything is based on my observation.
Yes, please.
Based on what I'm exposed to.
Yeah.
Look, on my side, I've for the longest time I've always been getting a lot of I'll call it celebrations over how I've portrayed the industry to a lot of young people out there. So a lot of people have been inspired into wanting to get into the space, you know, for better reasons than the people I probably would have started out with. We always used to have an issue where we felt like in the bigger group, most of the people that were there because that's the only option they felt they had after flunking everything else and not being able to get accepted into anything else, right? It used to be like a common problem. It's like a last resort. How about you get into the farming space? So much so that I remember when I was studying, a lot of parents who saw me sticking to this agricultural thing, considering that I grew up in the city full time, who never thought I would actually sort of be enticed to stay in the industry, they would ask in December, do you think they're still taking my child? I'm like, well, it's like any other university. You have to apply around about the time when applications are open and they close at a certain time. But a lot of people will come and ask if they could apply in January, just before we start our lectures.
me.
You know, just as an by the way thing, because surely, you know. So there was that kind of attitude towards it. Now you have, I actually have a lot of people who, in grade 11 already, they're like telling me that, look, as soon as I'm done, I need to know where I need to be so that I can do what you do.
I hope they
or
watch the
what I've seen.
podcast, yeah.
So a lot and so this year especially, I mean, I have like 6 individual students whom have all enrolled, and I've been very involved in the enrollment and, you know, the plans that they have for their career going forward. And it's nice to do it early because, you know, they plan with an expectation, you know, in mind as to what to expect in the industry. You know, I'm like, look at me, I'm not rich. Short. Okay. Are you sure?
Yeah.
Right. I'm happy. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
not much to show for it, except for the things you see that I have around me. Yeah. So, and they're perfectly happy with that. And they go in knowing, and they go in fully aware.
Yeah.
And fully excited actually about what they want to achieve after this. Yeah.
Being rich in South Africa is different, though, bro. Being rich means the ability to fill up your car tank, to pay your bond, to pay your medical aid, and to buy
Sounds like wow.
more than food that you need. You know what I mean? That's being rich. Because a lot of people can't even afford to do that.
For me, it's being able to do whatever flip you want, bro.
Yeah. But
Time
anywhere
is
in the
the
world,
biggest asset, boss.
Yeah.
time is the biggest asset.
Yeah.
You know, there's a
But I mean,
famous...
a question for you, if I'm allowed to.
We're going back to this topic now. It's dying.
No. I'm just but for you, what influences doing whatever it is that you want? Because I also feel like we tend to fall into a trap of following trends. You see, that's the thing about wealth. Wealth now speaks to a G-Wagon and a V-Class. And when you have those 2 statement vehicles in your yard, we kind of know that you
made
are
it.
rich. You know what I'm saying? And it's become a very specific sign of wealth. You know, I mean, you could still be wealthy and enjoy driving your Highlands or your Corolla. You know what I mean? But that's not how we. So what influences the things that you actually want to do
As an
person, individual? Like, do you,
from a wealth perspective,
yeah.
bro. I don't know. It's all about just control. I just want control.
Okay.
I would want control of everything that I do. Right now, even if you're a CEO, you don't have that control. Hey, bro, wake up in the morning. You got to go to this meeting. You got to bat this fire. You got to do this. You got to do this. You got a PA that scheduled everything for you. You know, you don't have any control.
Yeah.
When you are a big shot. When you're earning 300K a month, you got the money, but you don't have the control.
Yeah.
Sure.
I want the control. Cut the money.
Wow.
You know
That's
what I mean?
so well said, bro.
Yeah, man. That's the key driver for me, bro.
Awesome.
Yeah, yeah. And you?
Sure.
He's staring at me. What about you?
Bro, I honestly want the ability to wake up in the morning and do whatever drives me to do it.
Yeah.
If I want to wake up in the morning and go to gym, I can go to gym. And then after that, I can go check in on things and then go wherever I want. I just want the ability to do with my time what I want to do with my time. And that's what I feel like pure wealth is. It's very similar to yours.
And then add a little bit of passion to that, because you got
to be a driver.
You got to be doing something though.
Yeah.
Every day.
I would, if I
So,
could.
for example,
Yeah.
if you want to be good at golf, for example,
Exactly.
actually
You got to
spend time.
you got to go every single
Exactly,
day,
yeah.
Josh. You got to go. Exactly that.
You see now.
So-
you see now. Did you tell him to say that?
No, I didn't.
Hey,
Bro.
do you play
Just
golf?
get good at golf, bro. No,
you play
he
golf
hasn't
now?
been
Bro, they've been
training.
sending memes and
The
shit.
boy hasn't been training.
They've
That's
been
his
sending
problem.
memes, bro.
Is still chipping grass.
Yeah, no, man. He's messing around.
You guys
Difficult-
showed him that
difficult-
chat.
no,
Now he's saying chipping grass.
No,
bro.
did you chip grass? I mean, I chip grass.
Is it? Yeah, I also do
I
that
know.
sometimes.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a
Stop.
speciality.
Yeah.
But it's also, you know what's nice? I know when I'm wealthy is when I have the ability to go to a showroom and swipe.
Yo.
That's when I know. That's when I know.
But that's when you don't know what the cost of things are.
No, that's when you know.
That's super rich.
you know what's funny?
Where you don't even know how much
How
something
much that
costs.
is.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Where like you at a stage in your life where if you buy a vehicle, you don't think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That doesn't affect you at the end of the month.
Yeah.
That's when you know you made it. But what I've noticed, maybe it's a KZN thing, right? The wealthiest bras drive Toyota Corollas.
Hey, bro.
Those white ones.
Proper.
It's white or silver. It's either or of those colors.
Proper.
If
Be
it's-
careful of those.
if-
I see them in the suburbs.
That's when
that's
you
money.
know.
That is money.
The Toyota Corolla. If you see that car in South Africa, please know that guy is very wealthy.
Bro,
So the guy in Johannesburg who had that whole ESCOM scandal, who died in a Corolla.
oh yes, yeah. Yes, he had the it was Zondo scandal there. And he
Toyota
had a
Corolla is a sign of wealth.
Yeah, bro.
If it's white or silver, especially,
No, listen.
and it's an uncle driving it with a slight stomach, it must be a little bit, it must touch the steering almost.
Just know
Bro,
that
you
just
must
that
know.
the couch is
Yeah,
full of
There's money at home.
I've got like some neighbors from my area
Yeah.
who live in this massive house. As you drive, you see it. It's huge.
Oh, I know that one.
Corolla and a Fortuner.
There we go.
But guess what? Load shedding, bright lights.
there we go.
Bright lights.
There we go.
And I'm like, you see now, this is what I'm talking
exactly.
about.
Toyota Corolla is a sign of pure wealth in South Africa.
Full stop.
Come with your G63, come with your Viano, come with your Lamborghini. There's a man with the Toyota Corolla who can buy all of them now if he wants.
I hope I can drop my son off at Hilton with a Toyota Taz. Now that's wealth, boys.
That's wealth.
Imagine driving that. Dad, why are we in this car? You got the Ferrari at home, man. You shut
you
up.
sweat in
That's
that
my
car.
Ferrari at home. That's my Ferrari. You own
Sundays.
your own Ferrari.
You wind, your son's winding the window.
Wind your window down and say how's it to your mates.
Say,
All right?
Dad, I'm passing William quickly.
This is
Don't
why
forget to
we
wind
look
around
the
for
way
I can't
we
reach
do,
when you
boy.
lift.
That's wealth.
That's it. That's it.
And you
that's
know
it.
what? People who do that are smart.
Yeah.
You go to their house and you're like,
The
wow.
discipline is
And the car
amazing, like,
relaxed,
again.
the clothes are relaxed. You know what I mean?
Clothes.
Clothes are a big thing as well.
clothes.
Because me, for example, a sign of wealth all the time is, bro, you must have designer, you must have this, you must have that.
See, that's
when
why,
you see
and
someone,
that's particularly why I asked the question.
Exactly.
Because I feel like a lot of the way in which we perceive wealth
Wealth.
is through the things we see, and it's becoming such an
Instagram.
apparent.
it's a trick, bro.
Instagram.
It's honestly a trick because all of these
Instagram.
companies that develop Louis Vuitton and Gucci and the big brands, they often only wear it because it's their brand, right?
Yeah.
The people who make them rich are the people who are paying with the credit card
With
to
the
buy that thing.
credit card.
Do you
That's
get what
for
I'm
sure.
saying?
That's for
If-
sure.
if-
Seeking that status.
The state people feel like if I've got a Louis Vuitton bag and I've got a Gucci tracksuit, I'm rich. Nah, brother. Java Toyota Corolla. That's where it's at.
Just buy it if you like it.
There
Bro,
we go.
Yeah. So it's that with the students looking good. Are you gonna make some bigger farms for us that cost about 10 million? Remember that deal? Are you gonna make bigger?
Can you just ask some guy somewhere in the background just fix that conversation?
Please fix that conversation. I'm not even speaking. I'm putting this mic.
Are you thinking of expanding?
So how much you need to open a farm?
quickly. Yeah.
Look, yeah, I'm actually I'm growing into I would like to grow into the training and development space. I want to further allow.
What is that?
So basically, you get agricultural colleges, and FET colleges. You get universities, that kind of stuff, right? But you can also develop communities through skills training and skills development, right? You must obviously be accredited for that. There are CETAs that are in place to ensure that you meet the quality assurance standards that make you eligible to be able to deliver learning material and to teach people skills so that they have the skills and to certify that they have the skills, right? But you must be trained for that, okay? And it's a rigorous process. And then you get your Agri-CETA certification of your company. You must also get one for facilitation, moderation, as well as I think it's facilitation and moderation. Yeah. And then you are able to teach skills, So what you're doing is you're trying to also slowly infiltrate these subsistence farming areas, rural farming areas, small-scale farmers. You're trying to get them to sort of become skilled and to be able to use their skills collectively to build a substantial economy where they're from.
Bro, are there any cool innovations happening there though? Or is it the same shovel that you also using?
No, but that's the thing. So basically it's more of can we develop 10 drivers who can drive a tractor, and can we actually look at how we're able to get the equipment? That's what I'm saying. When they have the skill, it's easier to leverage assistance from government per se. If they have programs that they're rolling out programs to people who can actually utilize the equipment that they're now getting so that they are put in a better position economically.
So even AI, what's AI's impact being on the farming sector? Because it's taking a lot of corporate sectors by storm.
I can take a guess. AI drones.
Okay, fine. But the funny thing, and this is why I struggle with acronyms so much, because there's an original agricultural AI, which is artificial insemination, which is how we make cows pregnant.
Yes, and then there's avian influenza.
That's the one where you shake. That's the one where you said you shake the thing to make sure the cow.
And then there's
dry January for you, bro.
Yeah, bro, you're telling me, bro. You said that thing is odd.
And then there's artificial intelligence. Okay.
And then that's the drones, actually, like drone spraying and crop disease spotting on crops type of thing. Using infrared or whatever they use.
There's another way to make money. Guys are not flying airplanes over those places now for the contamination, the pesticides.
Yeah, pesticides, exactly.
They're using drones. Bro. It's a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
For the high tech, I mean, it's carrying a weight. Surely it's a bit more expensive than
it can't be expensive than an airplane.
Okay, no, I know that.
It's cutting costs.
Were they using big airplanes?
Yeah, they were proper airplanes.
Yeah. They're using airplanes, bro.
Some guys have to get helicopters. Just to put it into perspective, when we talk about how big some land pieces are, some people need choppers or helicopters to go from one side of their farm to another side.
Just to spray that stuff.
Well, it's to spray, definitely.
Yeah.
And then I know a couple of guys within the Midlands who own farms in various places, but fly directly off of their farms to access the other farms.
Listen,
so like from Howick to Zululand.
Yeah.
That's also a sign of
a couple
Wow,
of them.
bro.
It's crazy.
Easy.
People don't talk about cars. They talk about planes.
Yeah. Listen, good luck for the future. Don't get kidnapped by vegans. We need the beef, boss.
Please.
I mean, what am I producing?
Well, just in case, they might be kidnapping you, bro.
Yeah, because he's making the beef.
Please, bro.
Always making beef.
It's a different lifestyle.
Yeah, dog.
It's always nice having you on, bro.
Thanks for coming again, bro.
Thank you for having me.
bro.
Thank you for having me.
Episodes like this are very important.
Yeah, no, for
because
sure.
We've touched on such good topics here.
For sure.
We've touched on being a man and working corporate versus being an entrepreneur, the drawbacks, farming in South Africa. Quickly before we go, bro. How important is this election for you?
2024.
It's huge.
Yeah, well, you spoke.
We've also got the highest recorded registration for
lovely.
voters,
Good.
even more than 1994.
Tells you a lot.
Is there any
according to
revenge you
Twitter.
need to take from the political issues that happened to you?
Absolutely not.
That happened to you in your
absolutely
farming?
not. I was just growing cabbages, honestly speaking.
Yeah.
I just said the effects of.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't even know what the beef was.
Yeah,
Okay.
But this election is important for you as well.
It's just cabbage.
I think for everyone in South Africa, I would say.
Yeah. Why more particularly for farmers? Are you saying it's important?
Because for farming, bro, it's an industry where I'm just saying this very naively from what I've gathered, right? If you tell somebody I'm a cardiovascular surgeon or I'm a chemical engineer, they get the respect automatically, right? Whereas you saying to someone I'm a farmer, it's never looked at the same. You know what I mean? Whereas you could have more money than both of those brothers, right? And I feel like why it's so important for farming, this election, is because firstly, we need to sort out this lands claim chat that's happening. It's important for foreign investment, the election, and which plays a big role there as well. We have to make sure those trade agreements for export are in place as well. That all comes from a government space as well. Yeah. And we also need to make sure the government wants to invest more into the agricultural space, and
effectively.
And effective
they do invest into it, but sometimes it's you wonder if it's really significant.
Yeah.
For the people.
How significant? Sometimes people look at the number and they think, okay, 200 million is a lot, but it's not. I think for being a farmer, specifically elections, and even for general staff and people working on farms and in villages, bro, that money some of them get every month for not being employed is not great. Yeah. We need why it's important even more so is because farming has the ability to create so much more employment. Yeah. If they're given the correct funding and they're able to venture into different crops and planting nuts and avos and, if they fund it, I feel like there's a lot of job creation. Job creation is going to be the biggest thing from this election, I feel.
Okay.
Because a lot of South Africans are starving.
And lights.
And electricity, please.
Just if that's the basic.
Energy.
A small
At this point,
bit, bro. Just energy.
Anything is fine. Any form of energy.
Let's get that solar, whatever.
Simple.
Yeah.
We're not asking for much.
Sure.
Electricity and water.
Yeah, now we named our thing, our podcast, the load shed.
Maybe we can have to name it the load. The load. Once load shedding's done, this podcast needs to be
called the load shed.
The load.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Lekker! Subscribe, like, share.
Boom. And say hi to Dane in the comments. My boy. Lovely. And Momo.
Yeah, give me all your attention. One time for the misfits. Through the doors open on the highway, I promise you don't want to miss this.